Hey, welcome to another episode of the Black Guy with Tips podcast. I'm your host, Rod, joined as always by my co-host,
Karen.
And we're live on a Saturday morning, ready to give you guys some feedback. Find us everywhere you get podcasts. Search the Black Guy with Tips. That's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search us. We'll come up. And this feedback show is for people who left comments, voted in the polls, left voicemails, and all that other stuff throughout the week to be like, hey, this is what we thought about your episodes. The official weapon of the show is
folding chair,
and the unofficial sport,
bullet ball.
And bullet ball, extreme. There are people who give us money. I mean, you go to the right-hand side of our website, theblackguywhotips.com, and you can give us donations, okay? You can support the show. You can give it to us one time, recurrent times. Doesn't matter. We give you a shout-out when you do that because we just want y'all to know we appreciate y'all for doing that, and that's what we're about to do.
May I have your attention? You are now listening to Charlotte's own Rod and Karen. We welcome the good folks who tithe to the Black Guy Who Tips.
Today's a new day. That's right. New banknotes. New thanks, folks. Derek L.W., Ken M., Zachary from the Living Corporate Podcast, Lawrence C., Christoph R., Dotstra J., Preston from the Slang of Ages podcast, Matthew W., thank you, Mariano, Adam S., Dorothea S., Joe H., Jason F., Tyrone M., call him, and that's everybody that donated this week. Thank you. All right, 5-star reviews. We got one new one from Lester Biggs who says, This show is hilarious, 5 stars.
Yay.
My brother told me about this years ago. I finally started listening about 6 months ago. I was hooked from episode 1, technically episode 2914, and I immediately started going back day by day, listening to the previous day's episode, already back to spring of 2023. Keep doing big things. We shall.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you got
you,
an
Lester.
archive. I don't know if you gonna get through them all, but we like what is that show? One Piece. You know how you jump on One Piece and you be like, oh Lord, all these episodes, that's us in like the podcast sense. So shout out to you for jumping in where you did. And I don't know, and if you go back and listen, find if you don't find wherever you fit it, whatever you found us, I feel like you found us in the right season.
3104 Blackberry Molasses was our feedback episode. We got 4 comments. Appia says, cigarettes and alcohol are interesting to compare. Alcoholism is extremely dangerous and harming a society, but also if people next to me is drinking, like on a train, I'm not directly harmed health-wise, but the secondhand smoke is directly in my body and does harm there. When it's a family member, it's more complicated. I hope binge drinking is just less cool with young people now. I hope so, at least.
And when you think about it, people say that, but when you start getting drunk driving, this person is drinking alcohol. Nope, you didn't consume it, you can't get it, but they can definitely affect you.
Oh yeah, many ways. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that alcohol and people being drunk and harming themselves and others affects other people, you know, whether it is, like you said, family members and dealing with that, health outcomes, whether it's people making bad decisions such as fights and violence, such as sexual like things, even just things people regret, like even if it's like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that thing to you. Like it does have its harms. And I mean, at one point, unlike cigarettes, alcohol was actually outlawed in the United States. We had prohibition. So like there was a recognition that it was a danger to society, but that you know, they weren't able to stop it because we were more addicted to alcohol, I think, than even cigarettes. Like,
yes,
like the government basically had to give up that fight. Like, yo, okay, y'all can drink, fuck it. Yeah, it's getting crazy. We got bootleggers and mobsters are becoming like major figures in the world because of this loophole of like how to make money selling alcohol. Like it's a big deal. More period talk. Did you know that tampons or applicators are an American thing? Our tampons are only the thing that stays in the body. I wonder why this is. Maybe some kind of body phobia, because I don't think we have different hands. I don't know. Rona Raphael says, the artist formerly known as the Ronin here. Your name is Rona Raphael and you can't change it on the website. I don't know why you keep doing this. Interestingly, I shared Karen's view on the next presidential election of the DNC, but an event took place in South Carolina on Saturday, I believe, around the time of your recording, where despite the attempts by Biden haters to get Nevada or Iowa to start the DNC presidential process, potential 2028 candidates turned up to the South Carolina fair and addressed the crowd. Noticeable names were Westmore and Tim Walz. The article didn't mention Newsom, Gretchen, or the other usual suspects, except those two being intentional. Kingmaker Clyburn was in the audience, in attendance. I know that David Hogg must be dying in pain because nobody serious about seeking a path to presidency is coming to him. I almost missed the article because his headline was phrased under Biden's legacy of having South Carolina be the start of the DNC primary was bad or led to Trump. After I got over the clickbait anger and started reading, look at that. Y'all insulting black people and still acknowledging that DNC candidates are seeking them at the same time. Must be a Bernie bro that wrote it, or David Hogg. Yeah, I mean, that was a big move that Biden pulled, making it the first one. And what I think is interesting is it kind of takes away from the horse race of it. So the media and political fans that like watch politics like you watch sports, they're kind of being robbed of like the intrigue and the fun of like, because it's been the same my whole life for the Democratic primary anyway, which is Iowa, 90-some% white people. The white people pick whoever they pick. Then it starts going around to a bunch of other states that, you know, are mostly white people states or heavy, you know, high, small percentage of black people and brown people in them.
Right.
And then it gets to South Carolina, and every time South Carolina and the southern states are the people who eventually will pick who wins the election.
Right.
Wins the primary.
Right.
Election. And so it's been that way since like Clinton and Obama. Like, it's just not, you know, it is what it is. And I think Biden just basically said, in addition to just this being like a thank you to the black folks down here, it's also just a, hey, can we just stop doing the horse race negative press for whoever's in second, third, and fourth for however long? Let's just get right to organizing the party as fast as possible. Who is going to win the black vote?
Right.
Okay, whoever's going to win in a state that got black people and white people in it, that is the person that we need to get behind, and we need to push them from day one.
Because white people ain't the only people to vote.
Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's unfortunate that it's framed as like Biden is doing this, and that the real truth of the matter is, and I just don't think anyone's going to say it out loud, is that people don't want black folks picking the Democratic nominee. That's it.
They don't.
And the thing is, they always will, because South Carolina and the southern states will always matter. It always will matter, and you're gonna want somebody that can carry those states in the primary to even have an outside shot of carrying any of those states in the general.
Right.
You know, if you want North Carolina to be a purple state that may go blue, then you have to do that. Georgia, if you want to go blue, it matters. And then every fucking election night, it come down to everybody's hemming and hawing and crying and having anxiety attacks, waiting on the last couple districts in Georgia to report. Right. That's how important it is that the southern black vote is united and activated by a candidate. So let's just get that started right away. I wouldn't give a fuck if it was Bernie who came down and won it. I'm not a petty person. I'm not a vindictive person. I'm not a fuck it, I'll just lose. If Bernie came down here, started working in the South, and was managing to get black people to support him, and I looked up and said, oh shit, Bernie won the primary in South Carolina, then we riding with Bernie. It's not really complicated for me.
Nope.
I don't understand why it's so complicated for him and his people. It should not be that difficult. Y'all should have, we have now 12 years into, you should have been down here doing the work so that you can just cruise to the fucking victory in the primary, but you don't seem to want to do it.
No, but then you can't show up later on and be like, vote for me, bitch, get out of my face.
Yeah, and David Hogg too, get your ass down there.
Right, because now is the time that matters.
I'm not like I do know a lot of people that are very much like, I don't like Bernie, I don't like David Hogg, fuck them, and they better, I'm saying I don't like the fact that they won't do what I think they need to do if they're real.
If you real
if
about
you serious, just start working with black folks in the South now so you can win, and we'll be here. If not, I just feel like you're going on Bill Maher and talking shit about the Democratic Party, but that just really means the black people in the Democratic Party, because those are the ones that aren't voting for you.
Right, and and I agree, and those are the things that make me mad. Those are the things that waste my time, and it's one of the things where I feel like a lot of those type of people, they don't take the process seriously as much as they quote unquote claim they do. You don't take the process seriously because you have to do the work, and I understand, it's generational differences, but at the end of the day, you have to do the work. If you don't do the work, it don't matter.
It's not even generational differences. Bernie is old, David Hogg is young.
Yeah.
It's still the same playbook for both of them.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to do the work.
We got to go find the white male vote and fuck everybody else at all costs, and it's not going to work.
No, it's not, particularly when, black people vote and black people matter and black people count, and like you said, a lot of white people will never admit they do not like anything when black people are in control.
Miss Barnes says, I voted yes in the poll. The poll was, has our podcast ever made you cry laughing in public? This was back in 2020 when I listened to, for the first time, the Blackout Tip legendary story of Bullet Ball. I was driving and thought I was going to wreck when I was listening. I never ever will suggest wheezing and driving, but this is what happened. I also had my sister's doggy in the backseat, and she even raised her head to wonder what the hell I was listening to. Anyone that pulled up next to me was wondering what had me weak behind the wheel. No matter how many times I hear this legendary story, it gets funnier and funnier every time, and that's why we do it. Love it. Evie says, I don't know if I ever laughed so hard I cried when listening to this podcast, but I have laughed so hard my stomach hurt like I did a full ab workout. That happens often. I laugh all the time when I listen to Blackout Tips because Ryan and Karen are hot and funny. Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see the YouTube comments for this one. I think this, for the first time in a while, I think we did 5 episodes in a week. We've been doing like 3 to 4 lately. Dark Nom just said Saturday matinee 3 for $99. Oh, them the old school days.
I missed that.
Yeah, and Ramsey Deep PH Dunn says, for the feedback show, 5 stars. So thank you very much. The poll was, has our podcast ever made you cry laughing in public? 74% of people yes, 26% no. I appreciate the honesty for those 26%, but I mean, and the 76, all the percentage, but that's funny because I've listened to podcasts that have had me like crying, laughing in public, and it's just, it's the best. It's the best, worst feeling where you're just like, oh my God, I can't even control myself right now. All right, let's play a beat and then we'll come right back to cover some more episodes.
Psycho.
Music.
The next episode is 3105, Mimi Cherry's Big Bake. Where we had, of course, guest Mimi Cherry on the show. Ramsey D. Jenkins says 5 stars for this episode. Thank you, Mimi Cherry, for sharing your catfish story. Appia says, sweet guest. The catfish story is really educational. I'm glad she at least didn't lose money. Maybe I should watch the social fishing documentary. Always suspicious when a romantic interest all of a sudden starts talking about crypto, but I get it. You don't want to believe in that moment, and that's their game. It's good to talk about it and take the shame away. Yeah, I also feel like people get scammed in real life too. And we all know crypto people in real life. You know, like we all know those people where you're like, I can't believe you're this into fucking crypto, and it all feels like a pyramid scheme sales pitch to me. So I can see how online somebody would fall for it, because it's like, well, this I also know people I had a friend that we would be playing basketball and he just started bringing up fucking crypto, and I'd be like, what are you trying to get me to buy? What is happening?
Yeah, I don't.
This has nothing to do with what we was talking about,
right?
So yeah, I can see that happening in a dating situation. Gaining weight in the U.S. is real. When I was in school, it was a known fact that exchange students who went to the U.S. for a year came back at least 30 or 40 pounds more. It was so known that people minding their own business about someone's body was not a thing yet. It was like the 90s. She says, like teachers made comments like, oh, you got fast food every day. I see. Never mind. That's what that U.S. weight gain. That's that U.S. weight gain. It will go away on its own in a few months, and it was true. Yeah, I mean, listen, we got to serving portion sizes over here. It's crazy.
Yeah, and our food is different, and not trying to find. We don't have the same rules and regulations about food as other parts of the world. It's shit that we eat other parts of the world, like that shit is banned.
Rona Raphael says, this is a super duper episode. Give Rod and Karen an Emmy right now. Came through with all the fire questions that I was like, you read my mind. I needs to know. Shout out to Mimi Cherry. Fantastic guest. And what a killer podcast name. That's just beautiful. You love to see it. I got catfish plenty stories. The one that always gets me dying was during the lowest moment in my visa struggle days while in Lagos. I received an email telling me that she saw my photo and felt that a handsome guy like me would be good to her. She was going to leave her wicked family in Russia and move in with me. I didn't have my own place, living with my cousins and 4 of his friends, sleeping on the floor. This so-called Russian kept wasting beautiful poetry on me. I didn't know what catfish was, but we were having a great laugh at this crazy person who, after I explained my living conditions, still wanted to come be with me. I know my sexiness has a strong effect, but come on now. I look like them Feed African Kids commercials. I got bored before the eventual money request arrived and blocked their email. The cousin was also friends with a few Nigerian princes, so when in doubt, I asked them, is this you or your rival? Appia says, I mean, why are you so sure it was a catfish situation and not a lady who was really into you? I mean, it's too late now, but maybe it was some sad Russian lady really in love with you and whatever, and add some unlikely steps here. This is how we got Putin, she said. So I think it's funny because that would be a good rom-com meet cute premise or something. Not even meet cute, but a good rom-com premise is a person that was a scammer that falls in love with the person they've been catfishing, and then hijinks and hilarity ensue.
Yeah, or what would be even funnier is like, let's say it was a person from Russia who was really trying to look for people, and every time they hit people, everybody thought that they was the scammer. Type of thing where they was like, nah, get up from me, but I really do like you, and you kind of find out they really did find their pick, they really did like them, but everybody just keep rejecting it until they find like somebody that was I believe
that's what
you.
Appia is saying. That's what Appia is saying. I'm saying I would watch a rom-com starring, like, you know, somebody as the actual scammer that just that they start off scamming, but then they develop feelings for the person that's the victim, and then you know, everything that happens from that, the FBI gets involved, you know, that type of shit.
It's hilarity, as they say.
Miss Barnes says, Mimi Cherry was such a fun guest. I remember Rod posting on the socials a clip that he was a guest on her show, and in my head I was thinking, who is this host with her girls sitting out on the front porch for all of us to see? I thank God that I wasn't catfish when I put myself out into the universe to date, but I came across a lot of fake profiles. You can pick up some context clues when they are talking. One time I was talking to a guy pretending to be from New Orleans. I asked him his favorite foods, and he said pizza, hamburgers, Chinese food, and fries. That gave me some pause, because you're saying that you are from New Orleans and you're not talking about any crawfish, your granny's etouffee, I don't know how to pronounce that, gumbo, or chicory coffee. Or the guy that tried to convince me there was an army base in Anderson, South Carolina. I was like, I'm an army mom and there's no army base in Anderson. He really tried it. Man, scammers don't even be Googling. That's crazy.
Because they assume you, quote unquote, non-army person wouldn't know.
Evie E says, I really enjoyed Mimi. I hope you have her on again. She was so fun, and I know she would be hilarious playing all the regular show games. When you guys talked about scams, I remember there was a time I'd fuck with scammers when I was bored. One particular time, some guy messaged me on Instagram to tell me I was cute. I usually block those types of messages instantly, but I was bored, and I looked up his profile and noticed he was a middle-aged white guy, and he only followed women, and his boo said single father in England. Bio said single father in England. And there was just random pics on his account. I knew this guy was a scammer, and I had time that day. I told him thanks, and I noticed his profile said he had a kid. I told him that I don't like kids, and if he wants to be with me, he has to get rid of the kid. He immediately said, okay. I also told him that I don't like broke men. He said he would take care of me. Basically, I made all these weird conditions he kept agreeing to, and finally I told him he'd have to send me $1,000 to finish the conversation, and he blocked me, but I had a great laugh.
I didn't expect you to ask for the money.
Yeah, the new thing I've been getting on my Instagram is the people are like, this girl has a profile and she thinks you're cute. Follow her at her real profile. And I'm like, are people falling for this? I just can't. I can't imagine there's a high rate of return on this type of like
it can't be.
Whatever this is. Like, who is the dummy that is like, oh my God, what? This girl is into me, this OnlyFans model? She's seen my pictures of food and walks and leaving the gym. I gotta get with her. I gotta drop everything in my life and leave my family and kids and all this shit to be with this stranger on the internet whose friend got in my DMs to say she might be into me. That's
right.
crazy.
Not to themselves, somebody else.
Mimi Cherry responds on YouTube. Thank you for having me on. You're welcome. No problem. Dark Nam just says winky emojis. CMH818 says CHM818 says, I love this conversation. I exclusively watch YouTube and never truly listen to podcasts in general because of access. YouTube makes it easier for me to connect with so many visual podcasts. I never would have heard of the Blackout Tips if it were not for YouTube. Wow. Jason says, I don't use this word often, but Mimi was delightful. She has all the energy. It was also dope of her to share that catfish story with the pod. And TKG1 says, great show as always. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it.
We do.
I'm sure Mimi appreciates all these compliments and stuff. You know, a lot of times when we have guests, it can get a little bit dicey because, like, we'll have a great conversation. People will enjoy the episode, but it's like, just by the mere fact that we had a guest, some people will just not leave as many comments. I don't know why. Like, maybe they felt like everything was said.
Right. I don't need to add anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but so sometimes I get a little nervous because I'm like, oh man, is anybody gonna like leave a comment and say they enjoyed the guest? Because what if the guest listened to the feedback show and it's like, oh, no comments on this episode. It's like, damn, maybe people wasn't liking them or whatever. But yeah, so I like that everybody had nice things to say about Mimi.
I agree.
The poll was, have you ever been catfished? 33% yes, 67% no. What if y'all being catfished and y'all don't know it right now?
That's a true story.
You might have an internet friend that's not a real person.
Shit, I might.
Episode 3106, money is no option. We had 6 comments. JL Covan writes in.
Not the great Covan.
First of all, condolences on Black Panther, the video game not happening. Not every film can inspire a hit video game, let alone several hit video games. No shame in not reaching that multimedia mountaintop. Well, technically, this Black Panther game is not the Black Panther game that we found out about, the one that is with Captain America in it. So I guess there were 2 being worked on at the same time, and we will get the second one, not this one. But I didn't even know about this game, so I haven't seen a clip of it or nothing, so who knows. But yeah, totally understand. Now I don't know what video game The Dark Knight, which I assume is the movie you're referring to, has. I don't know what video game that would have promoted. Not that I heard of. So I don't know. Maybe that's something different that you can hit me to. Because I mean, if there's a specific Dark Knight game, I'm trying to Google it. And I'm not finding anything online about it. So I don't know, because I know the Batman Arkham City games aren't based off of it, and Arkham Asylum and stuff. Those aren't based off the Dark Knight. So those are just Batman games based off the comic book. So anyway, let's see. Second on the topic of guess the race, dick taker outers. I remember a week I was in Cleveland, and on my second day there was a white man who was walking across this bridge with his dick out. Then on the fourth day and the last day on the same bridge, there was a black man beating his meat on the same bridge. It's that kind of biracial acceptance that made me want to be a part of the Cleveland community. Yeah. And what if you would have found out that white man was Irish and that black man was Haitian? That would have really been, you would have been in Cleveland right now. You would have been living there. Lastly, after this episode, I realized if I had a podcast in the 1910s, it would have been called The Black Guy Who Tenths. Yeah. The black guy who talented tenths.
A black guy who 1/5.
Yeah. Well, talent. The tenths is talented tenth from WB Du Bois. So,
okay, my bad.
Yeah, the black guy who tenths would have been.
That's hilarious.
I kind of would have liked to see an old timey podcast with some old timey mics and that old timey voice that people used to have. I think the Negro problem can be solved very easily in 6 steps. I would have tuned in to see that. And now for some Cab Calloway, and they just cut to some jazz. Appia says, burn it down. People are in reality not serious or mature people. They expect that after you burned everything down, stuff will somehow get rebuilt like magic.
Right.
Only better and fairer. But who would be the rebuilder? God? The government that is otherwise not to be trusted as they say themselves? My favorite answer to that is the people. And I'm always like, you know who elected the fucked up people in the first place?
The people.
I don't see them rebuilding anything, and so it can be that you burned it all down to sit in a burned building for the rest of your life. Me personally, not a fan of this. Same with people who think that progress is something that happens authentically, not because people fought for it. I remember them wondering, how do we still deal with this in 2016? Why not? There are always forces in the world that want to go back.
Right.
If you think progress happens on its own, you stop appreciating it and are always just mad that it's not further along. Exactly.
Right.
And this is a big sticking point for me, because I don't think these people will see it this way. But I'm like, you are indoctrinated and you are foolishly accepting some myths that aren't true. And you need to read more and think more critically about our history and not just the propaganda you were sold. Because you were sold the idea that America is always bending towards justice and fairness and freedom. That's what you were sold.
Like that, but
those people were saying that and writing those things as they were literally owning other people, raping other people, killing other people. So this idea, this undercurrent of it'll get better because it needs to get better and it'll progress because that's what America is propaganda. When people are running for office, of course they say that they want to win, but that is propaganda. There's no real reason to believe them when they say that. What the things I believe when politicians say is when they're like, we need to fight, we need to do this together, we're only gonna get this if we vote for it,
and
if
people don't want to hear that.
And I don't like how people mock that.
Right.
Like when you hear people that mock Obama for saying don't boo, vote, what are you talking about? He's right. He's 100% right, because you're not going to get guns and take to the streets. You're not those people. Right. And you do keep acting like it'll just get better because everything just gets better with time. And that is not true. That's not what's been happening. We had slavery, then we had a civil war, then we had 8 years of Reconstruction. 8, just 8. Right? So hundreds of years of fucking decades, hundreds of years of slavery, the Civil War, 8 years of Reconstruction, 100 years of Jim Crow, 100 years to the Civil Rights Movement. Like, this shit is not a fucking game. And it will go back. It is going back. It is being pulled back. If you're not playing tug of war and pulling your side of the rope, you're going to start going the other direction. That's how it is. There are people who are alive. It is not just happening by happenstance, who are pulling the other direction. And they're not giving up. They're not going home. And they are vigilant. They are waiting as long as it takes. They don't give a fuck if Roe v. Wade is passed. They will wait 40 years. 40 years to be in a position to take that right back from women.
Yep.
That is what we are facing. And people are just not prepared to accept that reality. So we end up in these discussions about something to Democrats, as opposed to, yo, these people really out here.
Yes.
And no politician can save us there's no message they can give us. We have to do it ourselves. We have to motivate ourselves and stop making excuses for our fellow Americans who are either fucking ignorant, complicit, or just fucking so they think they're being cynical, but what they're actually being is so idealistic and optimistic that they've mistaken it for cynicism. This whole like, we'll just burn it down and build it again. You've mistaken that for cynicism. You've taken your ignorance and framed it as some type of moral virtue, but really you're just being lazy and obtuse and unrealistic, because that's not what's going to happen. When you look at what's happening in Gaza right now, this is the worst case scenario. This is not the better case scenario. And no, there's no optimism or hope on the horizon. There is no, well, you know what, maybe the next president will be more forceful. These people won't be here for the next president.
Right.
That's the reality of it. And we let theory and debate put us in this situation because it's very rhetorical when you're not living in it. When you're just like observing it through an app, you're not thinking of like, yo, even if it fucking compromises me morally, whatever the fuck, we need to find a way to stop this, and it won't happen under this next administration. Even if we lie to ourselves and be like, well, maybe it's possible, we know it won't. And it's never going to happen because it never works out that way in America. We don't have the opposite type of example very often in America, where it's like, oh, this conservative person we thought was the worst actually turned out to be really good and liberal and progressive. We don't have that. We really have the other thing more often, which is this person that we thought was progressive got in office, saw how hard it is, and was like, shit, I'm not gonna be able to do all this unless people continue to vote and support me. And guess what? They don't.
Agreed. And it's also, in my opinion, one of those things where I realize for the populace and mass and just people in general, when you ask them to work, everybody finds an excuse not to pick up their tools, whatever their tools are, and do the work. And like you say, the theories, the hypothesis and all that stuff is cute because guess what? Normally when people do that, they're safe. They're in a setting where the shit is not directly impacting them. They're somewhere where guns aren't being shooting, their kids aren't being stolen, their children aren't being forced to war. Like, it's real easy to make these theories, and I think that's how and this is just my opinion, how a lot of people treated the war over in Gaza and all that stuff. They treated it like that over here. This is why they didn't take it seriously. This is why they didn't go out and vote and prevent the things from happening, because it's one of them things where people go, it's got worse. No shit, we could have told you that. Like, and this is why I say not everybody, but a percentage of those people weren't real. Because if you was really about that life, you would be like, hey, dog, like, let's get somebody in office that's going to do something.
Right. Let's see. Shoe Booty says, despite the intro, every time Guess the Race goes into sword ratchetness, I always end up trying to guess the race of the sword criminal. Yeah, me too. I hear you. Sean says, for the ferret guy was considering Gallifreyan, as Sylvester McCoy, the Seventh Doctor, was known for stuffing ferrets down his trousers. I don't get that nerdy reference. Don't watch Doctor Who. Eve says, money is always an option, but that guy probably didn't have a lot of it. I know most of the gender wars are setups, but I'd be on the woman's side if a guy really took her to Starbucks for a first date. I can see a meetup at a coffee shop to see if the two of you vibe, but not to go out to at night. Well, this was during the day in the video.
Yeah, during the day.
So this looked like one of those. It looked like the thing you described of the meetup to check out the vibes. That being said, I just don't treat these things like they're serious. So who gives a fuck, really? Gender wars is one of my favorite segments because these scenarios are always so crazy. They really are. But like I said, I'm not gonna fall for the let's debate what happened shit, because I don't trust any of these motherfuckers.
Nope.
Miss Barnes says, thank you for highlighting older rappers and newer projects. The thing that's been on my mind is that I like my older rappers and will support their projects. However, as I get older, I now have the expectations that my favorite rappers grow and mature as well. For example, I listened to the last Ghostface Killah album, and for the most part, it was good. But there was one song talking about sexting females, and I said to myself, sir, you sound a little ridiculous at this stage of your life. Where's your growth? I don't mean you have to rap about getting the gout or stretching before you go to bed.
Making sure them knees work.
But some growth is your music style. I love Eminem. However, we have moved from Slim Shady, and that was highlighted very well in his last album, The Death of Slim Shady. FYI, fuel with Jig goes. It really does. My best example of growth with my rappers has been to be The Last Days by Onyx, which was my favorite Onyx song. That was in 1995. It captured the feeling at the time. However, there's a reloaded version of Last Days with Dead Prayers featuring Onyx that highlights growth yet stating fuck the system that we are in. Also, don't get me started with Nas and his King Disease trilogy. Elder Statesman Nas is the best thing out there. It really is. Like, that King Disease joint is really dope. And yeah, it's cool, good old man rap, but it's not like you're listening to it and feeling like it's corny or anything.
Right.
Anywho, I know this comment is long. However, this has been on my mind for the last couple of months, and once you touched on this subject, I had to get my keyboard ready. LOL. Thank you. No problem. And let's see, the YouTube comments for Money Is No Option, which was episode 3106. Shit, 12 comments. All right. Woo. Let's see what y'all were talking about. Dark Namja says, I was born and raised in the South Bronx, but I was sent to North Carolina in 1972. I'm lucky to have had brothers from the South who helped me navigate that space. I volunteered to go to the ROK to get out of there. Ramsey PH Dunn says, thank you both for providing history lessons and perspectives about Jim Crow and Reconstruction. You can tell who reads and who does not. Yeah, man, I hate to be one of those people, but it's not a joke. Because reading is really more of a catch-all for, hey man, people need to be more curious about our history. You need to be a little bit more inquisitive. You need to be a little bit more researched. There's plenty of ways to find history that's not necessarily reading a book. So reading is more of a catch-all. You could watch documentaries. You could
Ken Burn the GOAT, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, there's all kinds of documentaries and audio, like podcasts have done research. I hesitate to say too many things because honestly, once you start getting out there to the YouTubes and these like unregulated like TikToks and all this,
right?
Some of that sometimes when people are on point and sometimes they're just making content and they're not really fact checked or Googled or whatever.
Agreed.
There's no backup behind it, so you can't just trust any and everything. But there's a lot of reputable sources that you can trust, and I wish more people would do that, because I really think a huge exploit in our current media landscape is how uncurious the people with the biggest platforms are and how little they retain and how much I believe that is actually on purpose.
Yes.
That they are blank slates. I think they, in addition to maybe being dumbasses, which could be possible, I think it serves them to act like every time they hear something is a fresh story with no new background and no context, because it makes the best content. I think that's why Joe Rogan's the king of podcasts, because if you look at him, he's the biggest blank slate. He does, everything is new to him every time he hears it, and he's always quote unquote curious about it while retaining almost nothing. And just that's why it continues to blow up, because he can have someone come on there and tell him that Nazis are fake and that never happened and the Holocaust isn't real, and he can have somebody on there the next day that's like from the Holocaust Museum and be like, here's all the evidence. He'll treat both of those people the same. Big Issy says, Hi Rod and Karen. Most underrated part of the podcast to me is Rod's book recommendations and history lessons. As a history enthusiast, I can't get enough. I like to recommend A Fever in the Heartland to you both and to the Black Autist community. It's about the rise of the Klan in the 1920s, but still so relevant today. And so on, the girl on the other side of the road said, I've read the first chapter of the book. What a good recommendation. All right, I'll type that down. A Fever in the Heartland. Let me put that in my show notes in case I want to add that to my wish list. In the Heartland. Yeah, and don't forget, we have an Amazon wish list. So if y'all ever want to get us a book or something, the Kindle books are on there, and I'll be reading Kindle. That's what I do.
He reads a lot of Kindle.
The girl on the other side of the road also said that gender war deserved a 10, but I'll give it a 9 because of the music. They've already told me which side to be on. Inez left a bunch of heart emojis. Damien says Redman's Muddy Waters album is fire. Bonita Juanita says there are people that don't believe Harriet Tubman was real. I've heard about this loosely on TikTok, but if I'm being honest, I've heard more about people correcting those people and being like finding those people to be ridiculous than I've heard about people actually believing that Harriet Tubman wasn't real.
Right.
My understanding is even the first woman that made the video apologized and said like she had misinformation or something. I don't know. I'm very dubious of just this type of fool mining that is happening out here, and I don't know what is being truly gained from this type of ridiculousness other than to just see like who's impressionable enough or who is going to be triggered enough to help these people's likes and comments and views go up. Because who really heard that and went, oh shit, Harriet Tubman wasn't real? Who really that you respect? Who with
that
a
you
brain
respect
would you be able to do that to? Like a child, maybe, like a children falling for it? I don't know what the goal is, but it just seems weird, and I try not to give it too much attention because I feel like the backlash is more than the original thing at this point, right? Like I've only seen people mad about people not believing Harriet Tubman is real. I've not seen anyone who's like, no, but for real, she's not real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no podcast clip. There's no person that, you know, like Van Lathan's not like, you know, Harriet Tubman's not real. Like, no one of any import would say that, I think. E40 be legit still hitting, says Thomas. And Jason says, y'all said y'all were not against old rap. We're not against old rappers, but we are against these duds. Haha. Yo, that burn is all down left. That burn it all down left is mad annoying. Say what you want about the burn it all down right, but they at least have a January 6th on their burn it all down resume.
they got something though. Like we said it and we were trying to burn it for real.
Shit, if you keeping it real about burn it all down right, they got way more than just January 6th, dog.
Ooh, they got
that's the current iteration.
All 50 states probably got to burn it all down in one of them in the city in your state.
They tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.
And this is recently.
Yeah, they were shooting at the FBI. Remember under Merrick Garland and shit.
And didn't some dude break into a house and attack her husband?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. They have their burn it all down certification. Yeah, and that's before we get into like Wilmington and Rosewood and shit. The burn it all down left is still studying for the burn it all down exam. Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the last episode of Rick and Morty where the people that were the rebellion fighting against the Galactic Empire, and they just kept having like meetings and fucking objections to like, well, no, we should do this, and then no, well, hold on, we have to do this first, and we can't do that because that's on the such and such. And I'm like, that's us, and the quote unquote these people that want to have a left wing revolution in America is a lot of like, okay, but we can't do it on Tuesday because that's such and such day, and we can't do this. And what about the people whose children that aren't really that? It's not their fault. That it's like whatever, we're not ready. I wish I could let it go, but I'm still furious about anyone who didn't vote in 2024. Anyway,
Same.
That gender wars was pretty good. I will say, in this climate, we can't be having too many interracial gender wars. Congress might need to step in and regulate those. The white girl sort of resembled old girl from Sinners, so it was even timely. I was also struck by the lack of profanity, but that was also smart because they wanted better box office numbers, and I think it worked. Yeah, I didn't even notice that, but yeah, go PG-13. Don't go all the way to rated R if you can help it. You want to get as many views as possible. And the poll was coffee first dates, yes or no? 94% of people said yes.
Yeah.
6% said no.
That is reasonable. First time I meet you, that is reasonable because guess what? If it's cool, we can just sit here and talk it. If it ain't, it's coffee, dog. Okay, I finished my cup. I got to go.
Yeah, I'm with you, Karen. I think coffee dates sound cool to me. I'm obviously not in these dating streets, but sound like a cool like little medium, especially if you just want to fill in the vibes of like, is are we good or not?
Yeah, and then you don't have no obligations, and not trying funny, people are crazy, and it's one of them things where, if either party offers to pay, it's not that much. It's not like you fucking breaking the bank, or you can be like, nah, I pay for mine. Whatever arrangements y'all decide.
And it's not like sexual pressure.
Right.
Because like a coffee date in the middle of the day is not expensive. It's like no weird like, and now we have to go back to my place. Really.
Right.
I mean, you could, but it's not like it's not like that expectation.
Right.
Like, oh, and now we must kiss at the end of the,
Yeah, nigga, you bought me a $8 latte. Get out my face.
Episode 3107, Deflated. JL Covan says, as someone who read the Jake Tapper book on Biden, a few things. To defend the book, though I know Tapper is revealing himself every day to be more and more of a both sides smug dude, I do think it's newsworthy and important history. Almost everyone only talked to them after the election, so there was really no way for this book to be written and published any faster than it was. You know how I feel about Biden and Trump, etc. So I still found it eye-opening, though for me, no one seems to credit the Bidens and Democrats' fear of looking weak in the face of a resurgent Trump as a reason to protect weaknesses. Democrats, as always, appear to be damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
Yeah, and for the record, you've not heard me say it, and you won't hear me say it, even though I know it's very popular to say this about this book and all these tell-all books. I'm not one of the, why didn't you tell us a long time ago? What I'm saying is, it is literally too late to litigate this.
Yes.
And there is nothing to be done. Meaning, whatever you feel should be the consequences for Democrats having, let's go to the worst case scenario, having let Biden stay in office too long, knowing he was not mentally fit for the office the entire time, or at some point, because I still don't know the exact timing of it, because it feels, and maybe I would have to read the book, but it feels like the timing has to be weird just because he was competent enough to run for president and beat Trump. And then it sounds like almost immediately people are like, and then he was not fit for office immediately, if you believe Jake Tapper and his unnamed anonymous sources. So if he is telling the truth, and that's what happened, Biden did step down. He just didn't step down the first day that whatever was, it was too far. But he stepped down when public confidence was like, bro, you need to step down. And then they lost. So I don't even know what are we even gaining from this?
Yeah, what are we
because
talking
his
about?
media tour has been Tapper being like, these fucking Democrats, right? Am I right? And I've just found that to be weird. I think that's not necessarily meeting the moment, and it would have been, I think, just still a way to write and promote this book in a way that's like more sympathetic and understanding of the tragedy of these circumstances and what it led to, and not these fucking Democrats, man, they ain't shit, and they said my son play video games and want to be a cop. That's the problem. So keep in mind, and I know, for what you do, JL, you kind of have to stay up on all this shit because, literally you're making content based off of this, and I think it would be a bit of, it would be a bad form for you to be like, I object to this book, I ain't reading it. It's like, you should probably read it because what you're doing content based off this. But that being said, me, book buyer, book reader, I'm not, his promotion of the book is making me doubt the premise of the book.
Right.
And I don't think that's smart promotion. Like, coming off like you're angry at the Democrats and you're gonna get them just feels like the wrong message, because who are you selling the book to? Probably Democrats who are in dismay, looking for some like way forward and for like some explanation of how things got here. Well, why would you piss off all those voters in that way? Because I know the Republicans are not buying this book. They're not like, finally, Jake Tapper, one of us, he's come to the dark side and we can all celebrate this. They'll use him for these interviews, but they don't like media people. They don't trust Jake Tapper anymore. They trust anyone else who's not on One America News or whatever. And they don't need it to be true. So they're not like, oh, the proof. On March, he forgot. He walked in the closet and he got lost. there it is. We finally have truth and evidence and we can share it. They don't give a fuck about that. They're like, we were saying the man pissed on himself in front of everybody and we photoshopped piss on his pants and we don't care that it wasn't true. Your comment on Trump and Israel appear to be another Dems as a single mom. GOP as deadbeat dads, level of expectations. Agreed. Tapper actually writes briefly that one of the biggest points of disagreement between Harris and Biden was on Israel. She would have taken a tougher stance on Israel, but was in a tough spot because you don't want to attack your sitting president's foreign policy. I find it so emblematic of our current politics that right-wing people will portray Harris as the most radical left-wing politician if it can hurt her. But then on the topic like guys, the left-wing people assume that she would maintain the most conservative stance just to not vote for her. Yep. That's it right there. Everything in a nutshell, bro. You perfectly summed it up. And I think it's so interesting too because I really don't feel like I was reading into this. I thought it was kind of obvious and apparent. She did not feel the same way about Gaza and Israel and Palestine as Biden, but it was obviously bad form and bad strategy to be up there campaigning as if like fuck Biden. I'm the new sheriff in town. It was like, let me get in office and I'm going to do what I can to fix this thing. That's what it felt like. Now maybe she would have got in office and not done those things and we would all be sitting here like fuck, I guess she was just like Biden. But if I don't think you can say certain things out loud in America. You just have to go do them. Every time someone gets close to saying certain things out loud, we see the punishment they receive for those things. So you just have to get in office and do them. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, but that's what Republicans do all the time. And some of the things they say they're going to do, everybody acts stupid like they can't read between the lines and then act shocked and surprised when they tell you what they're going to do. And then sometimes they don't tell you what they're going to do. They just get in office and they do the shit.
Well, it's like Mary said in the chat. It's like with Obama and gay marriage. There was never a point in time where I honestly thought Obama was against gay marriage.
Right.
And for people, listen, I get it. You're an activist. You're a person who's a private citizen. The consequences are not big for you to say anything. The country won't be in a lurch if people get mad at you because you're like, I want gay marriage tonight or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But for a guy running for president, if he loses and he would have been like an ally and a supporter of gay marriage and marriage equality and all this stuff, he's like, I got to do the math so that I win enough of the percentage of people voting, but also get in a position where I'm passing these laws and I'm making this environment so that when it is time for Marriage Equality Act to pass, I've done all the groundwork and normalized it in a way that it won't be controversial. When we're flying pride flags outside of embassies and shit, I need to make sure that this is a place where that can happen. And scaring everybody in 2007 means I'm not president in 2008.
Right.
And that's just the politics of America. That's the game they do have to play.
Right.
That's the real cynicism I wish people had, instead of thinking, no, my cynicism is secretly this person hates gay people. That's not really cynicism. Cynicism is when you make these calculations of like, no, the cynicism is you gonna have to lie to these people and get in office and then do what you want to do.
I 100% agree, and it's one of the things about even Harris when she was initially picking her VP, and I'm not trying to fun, everybody was throwing up all these names. I was like, hey y'all, ain't none of them names gonna work. I get what y'all want. Y'all want this to be some radical thing where we're making a point, but also you need to be elected. You need to be electable for the entire country.
It's math, it's logistics, but yeah, I get it. It's people want it to just be like a TV show. You get up there, you say the truth, everyone likes it, and you win. And it's just, that's never been America. Abraham Lincoln did not run on and even got into war by saying it's about freeing the slaves. Now maybe that was his motivation, maybe it wasn't. Well, we can never truly understand what's in his heart.
Right.
He gets all the credit for freeing the slaves, as people like to talk about it, but if we're being honest, that's not a thing he ever said.
Nope.
So you can't, because he knows if he would have said that, there would have been no Civil War. If he would have said, we are doing this to free the black slaves in the South, white people would have been like, and you expect me to go die for that? No. You got to turn it into some other shit. Mm-hmm. Abby says, for anyone asking why didn't she leave earlier, talking about Cassie and the Puff Daddy stuff, what's wrong with you? Seriously. A young woman under a real threat of getting killed if she left. I was never even in a physically abusive relationship, but at 22 I had a terrible boyfriend and still had a hard time leaving because of my all the relationships work would be for nothing delusion. Yeah. And you said that's not even like an abuse situation. So once you throw some abuse in there, it's crazy. I just read this book, Grown, not too long ago. I think I mentioned it on the show, but it was really good. It was a really good book. A really smart book, but it was about a young black woman, a young black girl. She was still in high school, I think like 17, who is by Tiffany D. Jackson. But she meets this like grooming R. Kelly like figure. And a big part of the grooming and conditioning was the idea of making someone fall in love with you who really had no agency of their own and no experience outside of you. And, you know, all the stuff that they do that we read about, isolation and, the love bombing versus the, you know, the abuse and then the big acts of like making up and all this stuff. And I love that the book put you inside this 17-year-old girl's head because she is like, I can fix them. She is like all the typical things that, you know, we think that would never happen to my daughter or me. That would never. People's brains are much more easily conditioned than folks want to give credit to, you know. So I just think that's the reason the books have the same steps for everybody. Like, you can think you different and stronger and better, and maybe you feel that way, and maybe you are, but in general, if that was true, we wouldn't need a fucking textbook and all of them had the same steps on this is how an abusive relationship keeps people locked in a cycle of abuse.
Yeah, they all have this. There might be different variations. They might use different words, but everybody's like, hey, these are the signs.
Yeah.
Right.
Rona Raphael says, I was about to vote, but I noticed your trap not getting the Parava Quran today. The poll was, hear me out, Janet Reno, yes or no? Over 6 years, two of my friends, both men in the 38 to 49 age range, ran away from New York City to states and cities in the Midwest and South to begin afresh. It was almost 2 years after each one left that they were finally comfortable sharing that they were both in abusive relationships. Both men didn't know each other, by the way, up to the point that they had to cut off friends and family. I had met one of the former partners. It was early in the relationship, so no alarm bells went off, but for the fact that two younger military veterans changed everything from social media to cell phone, it changed my perspective, as up until that I might have sounded like Bill Maher in the past, and seeing the men it happened to and knowing that physical size had nothing to do in that case, as both men were physically fit and bigger than their abusers, showed me that there's layers to domestic abuse. If I don't have a clue, it's okay to be quiet and seek the right info. Oh, by the way, the abuser that I had met once tried to use a clone account on Twitter to trick me into giving her info about the whereabouts of my friend. I slipped at the last second and realized, she slipped at the last second and realized that she had been to my former place with him. Reply has been pending since then. Imagine me after witnessing that now reverting back to I don't believe Cassie or going the 50 Cent route. Nah, shit's too real. Yeah, and like I said, I think the shame of it is a big thing that keeps people from sharing. And then once you add the genderized ideal of like a man being abused, I'm sure there's many men who are abused in silence. Like,
yes,
it's like ours, and this is not a thing where I'm trying to blame women and shit, because I think one of the biggest sleight of hands that men do these days is they bring up men being abused and how no one cares, and then they flip it completely into like women, because it's women's fault, and that's patriarchy's fault.
Yes.
And patriarchy is and will always be something that is designed by and for men. Now, the point that I'm making, and this is one step, it's just one more step further than women. So women could beat men, women could have sex with boys in high school. This isn't about these individual women. Obviously, that is wrong. Anytime someone's abusive, is always wrong. The point that I'm making is a society that is set up to say you can't abuse a young boy sexually because all young boys want sex. So therefore, any sex they get is consensual and okay. And if anything, you pat them on the back and go, look at you, young stud. That's a man issue. That's not a woman issue.
Right.
Men set up designed a society where we're supposed to not see the humanity in our young boys. They set up a society where the sexual abuse that happens to boys goes unseen. And if it happens in the same sex way, so like a man molesting a boy,
right,
we then go, well, that's a shame because now you're gay. Something's wrong with you. You're weak. Something, you know, like, so now they don't want to tell us for those reasons. Once again, a patriarchal thing. Does that mean women cannot be complicit and participate in patriarchy? Of course they can. That all of us can participate in it. That part is not genderized, meaning there are women who think it is weak for a man to cry. But you know where that comes from? A society that's set up by men who say it's weak for men to cry.
Right.
And some women buy into it and some don't. I need to make that distinction because anytime someone brings up men being victims of abuse, sexual assault, stuff like that, it needs to be clarified that this is not just because women just as bad as men, fuck them. That's why that we need to make that clear, because most men will not take the time to make that clear, and it will just sound like they're saying, and women are just as bad as men. All abuse is bad, period, point, stop. The society that makes abuse possible is a responsibility we all have to fight against, but it is a society that was set up by a bunch of white men. That's in America, at least. That's how it happens. FYI, for the Guess the Race segment, Dairy Queen Grill and Chill, says Pamela M.A., are the full service restaurants where they also serve hot food.
Okay, so we just been to this regular ass Dairy Queen.
But I've seen hot food for sale in Dairy Queen. I don't think I've ever bought any, but I've seen it.
Okay.
I remember that one over by like Cotswold that I'm pretty sure had burgers on the menu and shit, and I just like, what?
Oh, it did, and confused me. I was like, what the fuck I want a burger or a hot dog for?
Although Sean says they're good. I do have it on my list of burgers. I was
confused.
I have it on my list of burgers I would like to try. I only know this because my son got a gift certificate from his office for his birthday a year ago. He ain't gonna eat there. I tried to get a burger for lunch, but apparently I was at one that just served ice cream. Still had to use it. EVE says, I have an actual, hear me out, the Predator. Yeah, he hunts people for sport, but on the plus side, he's a good hunter. So, he'll always have meat on the table. He's tall, has a nice body. Sure, he's facially challenged, but if he's on your side, he'll be loyal. I mean, just make him keep the helmet on when y'all have sex. He will always reward you for a job well done. He's athletic, so he has lots of stamina, so you know what that means. I can't be the only one who was shipping him and Sanaa Lathan in Alien vs. Predator. I wanted them to kiss so bad. I was shipping them too, but kissing those mandibles, I just can't see how it works. I feel like you kiss him and then his pinchers just like pinch it to your cheeks and kill you. So.
It don't end well.
But I mean, look, I always make the Predators, to me, I always thought they was black because they got that hair.
Like dreads.
EVE says, I agree with you about Checkers and Rallies. I've never seen it in a good neighborhood, but you know what, in the good restaurants are in good neighborhoods and have good food. Girl, of course we know. Applebee's, eating good in the neighborhood. Thank you. She says, Arby's, you can get a good meal without a side of hot lead. Lies don't care who tell them. Because I think if you do the opposite, you can get, because I'm not even sure you can get a good meal, number one. And a side of hot lead, I don't even know if you can do that, not get that. So, all right, 10 comments on on this episode on YouTube. Anand says, good morning, it's 1:20 a.m. You have become my best friends to look forward to seeing on YouTube. Man, you really be on it, because that's 1:20 a.m. is like when the episode is allowed to be on YouTube. I go to bed at night letting it upload.
Yeah, overnight, yep.
Howie, I am still full from 3106. It was heavy. I'm waiting for them to start going into European and Asian enclaves on the east and west coast, says Dark Namja. McDowell's Golden Arts, guess the race segment was good today, thanks for the last. So that's all of him. The girl on the other side of the road says, Trump and the Republicans run on DEI's being unskilled just for him to be the most unreliable, dysfunctional, underqualified government ever. These people can't even do the minimum. I really can't believe that someone could be this bad and destroy the government. The Heritage Foundation provided him with a step-by-step plan, and he still fell. And the worst part is that this will become the norm for all future presidents. It will be interesting to see, because I still, the only hope I have is that it will get so bad that the next president will be excellent or whatever. That seems to be the way it goes in the past. It's just shit gets so bad. Only an excellent person can make it work again. But it's sad because it's not like it's going to make everything magically better, and people will give up on that president within like 8 months.
Yes, they will.
Like, you didn't get everything right away? Fuck, I quit. This is why I don't vote.
Ugh.
Kevin says, y'all are so right about who gets blamed about what happens in this country. It's frustrating to see everyone blame Dems for everything Taco does. People be like, how the Dems just going to let him deport families, or they're letting him destroy the economy? I just don't get it. We are a dumb populace.
Yes, we are. We do not know how government works.
People do not know how the government works.
We do not have a king.
Like, just what happened to I'm just a bill? Is that why they getting rid of all the public shit, so people won't ever learn from songs like that? The kids ain't got no I'm just a bill hip hop remixes these days.
They don't.
Cokie Negra says, always good to find you here if I missed the live show. And Jason says, y'all are so right. It was Joe's genocide, then Trump came back, and now it's exclusively Israel's genocide. Damn, there were two stories of fast food workers going off over burger critiques. Yeah, so be careful. Honestly, I think this is Subway's fault. Once they started calling them people sandwich artists, these fast food workers ain't here for the disrespect.
Not sandwich artists.
If you ask pickles, but your burger didn't have any, that's just creative licensing. Eat your art.
That's funny.
And then the poll was, hear me out, Janet Reno. 7% yes, 93% no. Now that's a hear me out. See what I'm saying? A hear me out should not have 90% yes. It should be a very low percentage of some hardcore freaks that's like, you know what? Yes, Janet Reno can get it. That's a perfect hear me out. And let's go to the last episode, but first a little music, and then we'll come right back.
I turned around, and there he was, looking good. Girl.
All right, the last episode of the week, 3108, how the dermatology industry is failing people of color, with Dr. Tia Paul. And we got 7 comments. So the guest episodes got comments this week.
Yay.
Yeah, we love to see it. Literally, it's dope. Rona Raphael says, another award-winning episode right here. I'm glad that Dr. Tia tackled that loading up of so much stuff on the face, and that is not even necessary when you're in your 20s. As someone trying to raise a multi-dimensional daughter, I tried to get ahead of the game only to get confused by a young sister who was barely 20 on one of her videos that had gotten to 10 minutes. She was still applying different stuff to the face. The face was already glowing more than Adam Warlock, but more stuff kept being added, and I just knew that I would fail this test and unfollowed. Got me all confused and wondering if I was toxic for not supporting a black girl glow. I got my issues separate with the VA handles, but I am always worried about the kiddo and trying to give her glowing skin because I failed the community if my kid isn't glowing skin. Shaking my head. This was such a much needed episode. Definitely following Dr. T on IG. Great work.
Yeah, naturally skin does not glow, and I didn't even think about it till they said it. A lot of that has to do with the light, because a lot of times you watching that glowing skin shit is normally through a YouTube video.
Exactly.
When you see people in real life in regular ass lighting, nobody's skin fucking blinds you like a diamond. That's impossible.
Yeah. Pamela M8 says, whoever had the question about vanity cream and body oil, I wholeheartedly support the concept. I'm not an influencer. I'm not on social media, nor have I been paid for this endorsement. Assuming you're talking about lotion/cream for the body, I've just been mixing oil in my hand, combining it with whatever lotion is available for years. Sweet almond oil for spring, summer, and grapeseed oil for fall, winter. Laurini11 says, enjoyed this episode. Dr. Tia touched on this briefly, but yes, some medical advice comes without evidence-based studies. I did not fully realize this until I was pregnant and learned that, of course, they can't do controlled experiments, trials on pregnant mothers. It would be unethical. Most of us will still follow the doctor's orders because they are the experts and can make safe assumptions based on what they've observed and researched, but sadly, some people use lack of evidence talking point as a way to spew misinformation online. The only part of the discussion that felt a little awkward for me were her comments about people not washing their hair. I obviously understood her basic point. Yes, the majority of people do need to wash their hair pretty frequently, but given that we are that minority audience of people that do benefit from less frequent washers, it would have been nice for her to acknowledge that.
I read this comment. First of all, I want to bring up the point that we were actually talking about YouTube creators and like people online that were saying don't wash your hair at all. And so that's what kind of she was commenting on. And even through that statement, she didn't say don't wash your hair at all. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we were saying, because the thing about watching a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of times they just be talking. Like, particularly, like, I have natural hair, and so there are things that I can do with my hair, and I'm watching the video, I was like, oh, this video is not for me. And so talk from a doctor perspective, she's like, hey, you actually do need to wash your hair. It's actually healthy to wash your hair. The frequency, that varies. You know, some people may need to wash their hair more often than others, you know, and even some black people actually need to wash their hair more often than we actually do, you know, kind of depends. And so, you know, just for a healthy, clean scalp and all that stuff, you know, but that's what that comment was on, just so you know. It wasn't like she was just making a blanket statement. It was actually talking about some of the trends online, and one of the trends was people not washing their hair and people telling people don't wash your hair at all.
Thank you for clearing that up, Karen. Appia says, with the new American administration and their efforts to end any kind of diversity and even publish their own state mandated health science journals, it will get worse for people of color. They absolutely need to be represented in clinical trials, especially in subjects like dermatology, to allow insights for others. Evie says, I've been to 2 white dermatologists, but never again. I'm sure they're fine doctors for white skin, but black woman dermatologist I go to now is on point, and we need more black dermatologists in general. I've learned so much by going to someone who understands the complexity of black skin. This was such a great guest and informative show.
I realize I've only seen 2 dermatologists in my lifetime, and the one that I go to now, she's a black woman. And I think also, from my experience, the black woman I'm seeing, she's more detailed, and she actually kind of explains more to me and kind of tells me, hey, this is this and this affects this. And because, like you say, she specializes in everybody's skin, but you know what I'm saying? It's like she could pick up on things and actually diagnose me for something that I've been having for a long time. And so it's just one of those things where I just, you know, I appreciate having a dermatologist that cares, you know, about you and your skin, and actually tries to find, you know, out about these things, and told me, hey, we found out that these things, you know, affect you more than others and things like that. And I appreciate any doctor, regardless of the color of skin, to be like, hey, just like, you know, this affects African Americans more than any other group. Just keep it real versus just having you think something's wrong with you.
Yeah, I had a white dermatologist, and I went to a black dermatologist because the white dermatologist, you know, when I went in there, was like, oh, the epidermis is next to the epicurious level of the skin. And then I went to the black dermatologist. It was like, you gotta clean these pores, motherfucker. Goddamn, bitch. And so,
sir,
that's why I got a black dermatologist, because I need people to talk to me in ways I understand.
Sir, I do not believe you.
You better use some of this motherfucking oxy, bitch.
I think these are false statements you are making.
Well, you clearly never had a white dermatologist, so how would you know?
I have.
Okay, well, they must not. So then you didn't find this example. Your white dermatologist wasn't like, oh, let me check out the layer. Did you know the skin is the biggest organ in the body? You didn't have them say that to you? And they walk kind of like the butt was all tight.
No, that did not happen.
And they pull up to the dermatology building. They be listening to like, what's so wild you work?
No.
Nope. Okay.
I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
And then when the black person pull up, they be like, where them dollars at? Where them dollars at? When they pull up in their car with the baseball.
No, this fantasy world is not real that you are making up.
Okay, all right.
I mean, they might be listening to that music, but some of these things are not based in facts.
Well, that's what I experienced, so you can't take away from my experience. Tanya says, Dr. Paul was such a great guest and so informative. Also, all I can think of is a Seinfeld episode where Jerry called his dermatologist friend Dr. Pimple Popper MD, and then someone immediately came up there and thanked her for saving his life from skin cancer. Karen, you mentioned being diagnosed with HS. Isn't that the skin condition that Sterling has? Thank you for a great episode.
Hey, I'm not sure. And if it is, it's a much, much more advanced version of what I have.
I think it is. I think it is the same though.
Okay,
that Sterling has.
Yeah, because they have like different kind of levels of it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And just hearing Sterling listen to his story, his version is more advanced.
Yeah, it doesn't mean, I mean, it's like someone could have different varying degrees of stuff.
Yes, kind of thing.
But I think it is the same thing.
Okay, yeah.
I just remember having a long ass name and the abbreviation being HS.
Yes, and I don't know if he has to get shots or anything, but I know for me I had to get shots for reduction and things like that. He's
talked about that. Yeah, he's had to get surgery.
Yeah, and I haven't had. My doctor, she was saying like some people get bad where they have to have surgery and things to remove it, and it gets to the point where it almost is debilitating, where they can't move around and things like that. Like mine has never got to that point.
Shoe Booty says, the way I sent this episode to the group chat and let them know to hurry up and listen, Dr. Tia touched on so many issues we are dealing with in a relatable way. We are so bombarded by medical influencers now that it's hard to parse out the good advice from someone just trying to sell us shit. Absolutely great episode. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And let's see, YouTube, we had 9 comments on this one as well. YouTube was blowing up this week. Dark Namja left 3 comments. The skin is the largest organ in the body, covering its entire external surface. The skin has 3 layers: epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis, which have different anatomical structures and functions. That's what my white dermatologist told me. I remember that. That's exactly how he said it too. Like, the skin is the largest organ in the body, covering its entire external surface. And I said, oh man, I gotta get me a black dermatologist. And he was like, slap me some skin, motherfucker. And he like slapped me on the hand. I need Dr. Paul to take a look at my dermatitis. Maybe I can save some money or have to use that cortisone 10. On having to use that cortisone 10. All right, well, fly your ass out there to California, player. Mm-hmm. My mom says this is a very informative podcast. Your guests are so knowledgeable and pleasant on the podcast. Great show. Mm-hmm. CHM says, thank you for this topic. The question I have would be her advice on picking an esthetician or a facialist. Well, hey, we gave you her social medias. Mm-hmm. Go in the comments and ask her. I'm sure she'll make a video if she doesn't already have one on TikTok. Jay Full said, I'm so glad y'all talked about skincare influencers. These people be acting like they're the more qualified than dermatologists with no schooling or training to speak of.
Right.
Yeah, and like I thought Dr. Paul was so gracious because she did not like dismiss or belittle those people. Right. She was just saying like anecdotally folks have things that work for them, and it's not always something I can learn in my school. The stuff I learned in my school doesn't work on everybody. So someone could anecdotally be telling you the truth that blank thing worked for them, but it could also not work for you, or it could be like risky or dangerous to have side effects that aren't really, we don't know about, and that they don't even know about because they're not a doctor and they're not held to those standards.
Right.
Thank you both and Dr. Paul for this informative episode regarding our skin, says Erica. Inez says, thanks so much for sharing this information. Hard, much needed. Great questions. Great job. 4:48 a.m. I don't know why they keep putting the time, but okay.
I'm up early.
Right. Carell says, Joseph says Carell has a line of lotions that contains ceramides, and it has been the best for eczema for me. So there you go. Eczema for me. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Boom. All right, let's get into.
And I am so really glad that people really enjoyed that guest, because when we were talking about getting her on and things, I was like, I have tons of questions, and I appreciate. Not trying to funny her not thinking that questions were stupid, or like dismissing questions, like very open to even the questions that the audience had, you know, because like my question about dandruff is a question I've asked since I've been a kid. I was like, you know, can you get dandruff, you know, in your eyebrows? You know, I don't know, that might sound wild, but come to find out, you can get it on other parts of your body, which I didn't know. So I appreciate her, like you said, gracing us with the knowledge and not dismissing anything as, you know, stupid, because, you know, she knows things that the general mass does not.
Yeah, and you had great questions and came prepared to ask questions. And that was a guest specifically. Their people reached out to us, and you know, I'm like, like if it was just me by myself, I probably would not have chose to have that person on, not in any dismissive way, but just on some like, I guess this isn't really what our podcast does and is about. But I'm like, you know, that our podcast can be anything, about anything, talking to anyone. And I'm like, well, maybe if Karen is interested in having her on, then we can do it. And then, you know, I'm always looking for ways to get Karen active in the show, especially when we have guests, because a lot of times you kind of like look at, it's like looking at someone play double dutch and deciding not to jump in.
Right.
And I'm just like, just jump in. It's not a formal conversation. Just ask the question. I don't know why. I can see you over there hesitating and pausing, and I don't get it. So like when we have a guest like this, I don't have to worry about that as much, because you really do have questions for them and are curious and stuff.
Yes, and I didn't even go through all of my questions. Like
we didn't have time, because literally we had an hour with her, and she stayed over the hour.
Yes, she did.
But which was very nice of her. But I promised our people that it was just an hour, so that was why I was like, shit, I don't think we're gonna have to. And the audience asked a lot of questions.
Yes, they did.
So I had to make an audible, like, what do we do? Only ask the questions we did, or let the audience get their questions in, that stuff.
And I appreciate the questions that the audience had, because, you know, some of their questions were like things that, you know, I wouldn't even thought of and things like that. And also, that's actually a bonus to actually come live, you know, and things like that, so you can actually interact and stuff. That's like a plus. So for those people that like, I had all these questions and things like that, you actually could have asked those questions if you would have been live in the chat. So shout out to the chat room for actually, you know, helping facilitate, you know, the questions during that show.
All right, voicemail time. People called the voicemail line and left us messages. I think we got 5. So let's see what you guys had to say.
Hey, to Allegra. I was really disheartened at the possibility that I wouldn't be able to leave long-winded messages. So I'm glad we're back. Anyway, I'm listening to 3104, your feedback episode, and as I do, I have feedback on the feedback episode. And you're talking about Bernie, and I wanted to just briefly talk about my history, because I was introduced to Bernie maybe like 10 years ago. Oh, gosh, maybe even 15, almost 20 years ago, when he would call in on Friday to the Tom Hartman show, a radio show, and I was a sucker for what he was saying, because he was talking about the system in terms of anti-capitalism, and I, of course, was hanging around my progressive labor folk, and there are aspects of that idealism that I truly believe in, but he became abundantly clear, like everybody else, like you speak on quite a bit, Rod. It became abundantly clear that he was ignoring certain things in order to win, which I get that to a certain extent, but then you're no better than anybody else. And if you're ignoring the blatant parts of America that shouldn't be ignored, then are you really the candidate for America? So, yeah, that's my very abbreviated response and history of my my history with Bernie, he's being everybody else. And there was a point where I started calling him Trump of the left. So, yeah, it's hard to, find hope when you have people like this. But I do appreciate that AOC and Bernie are at least getting out there. But I definitely don't want Bernie to run for president. I don't think he would win, to be honest. He hasn't. So it would go to show that perhaps he is not the right one.
Yeah, not being able to win the Democratic primary and then saying it was rigged, to me, was just it's a very bad look.
Yes, it is. Yes,
because
it is.
I think for a person like him, he needs to win the Democratic primary to even convince me he can be president.
Agreed.
So that, I don't know what he's doing with this, but it's unfortunate. Like I said, I don't take any fucking joy in it. If anything, at this point, it's just making me mad and sad about it. And I guess, anger is sadness that has no place to go. So I'm really more sad about Bernie because I think he has such great potential. But at the end of the day, he just willfully allows a certain amount of like racial animus and animus towards people that aren't white men to exist in his coalition. And he doesn't really shout it down. He placates to it and says, like was sitting there with Andrew Schultz, man, it just really crystallized the issues I do have with him. We're all sitting there with him, and it's just sad. I would like I get there's certain things you can't say in America. Like, it's why they try to trip, like how they try to trip up presidential candidates, where they be like, would you say America is a racist country at like a debate? And it's like, Kamala Harris and Barack Obama actually can't say America's a racist country. Joe Biden can't say that. Whether it's true or not, we're not electing people to tell us that kind of truth. We know it would immediately end their candidacy. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm asking Bernie to do that. But I think it's different between that and being like, well, our society says, well, if you're black, you're great. If you're gay, you're great. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. The fuck are you talking about? Why are you sitting there with some fucking bigots acting like that premise is... I'm sorry. Next voicemail. Let's get to the next one.
What's going on, y'all? It's Dre. So, I'm listening to the show, listening to the feedback show, on the way to my daughter's high school graduation. Shout out, Bree, class of 2025. Anyway, y'all are talking about the shade room. And Rod, I'm telling you, it's no third eye to be open. That shit is clear as day. You are so right. I noticed the same shit. I'm watching these headlines on the shade room, and I'm like, these are like Fox News talking points. These are not ideas that are from black people. Like, it is a message that is intended for black people, but that shit doesn't come from us. And Karen, you were so right about how it moves people just slowly to the side. It seems unrelated, but so when I was a teacher, I used to always say, I tell my students the same thing all the time. I tell these young kids the same thing every single day. And I know that they're not going to hear me, right? Because no kid hears an adult telling them directly, this is how to live your life.
Right.
But what I'm actually hoping happens is later on down the line, someone else who they trust says the same thing. Because I know that when they hear it again that second time, it's going to mean more. It's going to be reinforced more. And it's that same shit those right-wing people are doing with the shade room and them fucking black sites. They taking our own media, hoping that people who are not engaged politically see a snippet of that shit somewhere else, and then they hear one of them say it later on, and they like, oh yeah, I did know that, because it makes a dumb motherfucker feel smart to have some fucking anchor into whatever people are talking about. I just, bruh, this shit is crazy. That's all. I don't even have a follow-up or a closure. You're just right. And I agree completely. Love you guys, and I always love the show. Peace.
Man, that is so true. Mm-hmm. I didn't even, that's part of the fool mining.
Yeah.
Because you get that second confirmation to the already bad misinformation. It's like, yeah, I did hear something about, the measles vaccine gives people autism. I did hear that. And it's like, you heard it from two fucked up places. You heard it from the Shade Room, which is not a news organization, and then you heard it from RFK Jr., and now you walk around saying that dumb shit on Facebook.
Yeah, and they do think that they're smart. Because that's the thing. We live in a society now where dumb people want to be smart. Mm-hmm. And they act like the smart people are the dumb ones now, and the smart people don't know what they're talking about. And when they got their knowledge and their news, and now everything is valid. And the people who actually have dedicated years in school, got all these degrees, I can easily dismiss their shit because in my own world, in my own reality, not the reality that's actually real reality to everybody. In their own reality, they're smart now, and it's dangerous when you live in a society where, particularly with social media and online, you can create your own reality. It doesn't have checks and balances. It doesn't have anybody testing you. You can feel good all the time, sad all the time, depressed, angry, whatever it is you want. Social media says, I got you. Mm-hmm. And whenever you stepped outside of that matrix and reality hits you, you could be like, oh, let me go ahead and take this red pill again. And I know this steak is fake, but I want this fake steak. Everybody that's trapped in the quote unquote social media matrix and online matrix, no matter what platform you use, a lot of people love being there because you know what? You know what's outside of that reality? Fear. You know what's outside of that reality? Shit you can't control. You know what else is outside of that reality? Anxiety, sadness, depression is waiting on you. But you have to face those things. And we live in a world that tells you you ain't got to deal with it. You ain't got to face it. You know what? When people tell you that your behavior is wrong, you can tell them, no, it's not real. And you will have people confirm what you're feeling. You will have people tell you it's okay. It's like a comfort blanket. And you can wrap yourself up in your own personal reality that's not real, that is actually driving you insane and separating you from friends, families, and loved ones and the reality that's happening. And the thing is, it's just like any other drug. It's a drug. You know, you can't, if you don't admit that you have a problem of not facing reality, no one can help you. And that's the issue. Too many people are trapped in this world and they will not admit that they have a problem. And when people come and tell you anything opposite, you run back to what makes you comfortable. And it's very, very dangerous to live in a society that doesn't want to face these things. Because you know what? The second you have to face these things, you will find out, not that it's not hard, not that it's not difficult, you will find out that you can cope through these things. You can actually, people actually care about you. They want to help you get into the reality of what's happening. But as long as you're in denial, nobody can help you. So baby, I'm 100% behind you, and I believe that, and it's dangerous when you don't have to face reality. And this is why we have a society where everything got to make me feel good. Don't hurt my feelings. I don't want to feel bad. Bitch, that's not reality. That's not reality. In the real world, shit hurts. In the real world, you will be disappointed. In the real world, you will be let down. But we're in this illusion of social media that tells you that everything has to feel right all the time, and if it doesn't, you have the right to reject it here.
Okay, I have to ask, how did you get there from the Shade Room thing?
Because he made a comment when he was talking about the Shade Room and the reality of people dealing with the Shade Room. Mm-hmm. And I think, and also when he was talking about like the information, how you get your confirmation from the Shade Room and then you get your confirmation from this other source. So now you feel smart. You personally feel smart, okay? Mm-hmm. So you feeling smart makes you feel like, since I'm smart, why do I have to believe the real smart people? So I can create my reality where I'm always the smartest person in the room, and I can reject the real smart people and call them dumb because I got confirmation bias that I am smart. And so that's what led on to that.
Okay, yeah, I see how you got there. It's just very interesting because at the same time that you were saying that, Bossy was texting me about there was this woman that I think I may have even played the video with you in the car one time, but it was this woman who was clearly having or maybe I watched it by myself. But
you showed me in the car. I know what you're talking about.
She was having a clear psychotic breakdown.
Yes.
She was not seeing her family. And she was telling the people in the chat of her TikToks, like, you know, I called the police. They called the police and did a wellness check on me.
Oh, I didn't see
Okay,
that. When
okay, so yeah.
I saw another one with you.
Okay,
but, yeah.
but it was like they did a wellness check on me, and I told them that these people are not really my family. They are trying to do this and da da da. And so Bossy had just texted me literally like right before the show or whatever, and was like, you know, update. And the girl was doing a new TikTok, and she was like, I had a mental breakdown. I stopped taking my whatever she did, and was in the middle of a psychosis, and the comment section was on my side. She was like, I can't believe y'all let me have experienced a mental psychosis and y'all were saying that. And I thought that was very relevant to what you were just saying, which is, like I said, I wasn't really sure that to me, it's more like the comment section does the thing where you never feel bad and everything feels good, and they're not really connected to you. So they tell you that your psychosis is your superpower, and your family really is abusing you and all this shit, but they don't know you. They don't know any of that information. Why the fuck would people that raised you, lived with you, fed you, clothed you, helped you, talked to you all the time, them putting a wellness check on you, that's the real abuse. Me, person that just saw you on my feed and went, yes, queen, I'm the real family and supporter, right? That's what it felt like you were getting at, that idea. And I was like, man, how does the shade room lead to that? But yeah, the shade room in a different way is just an extension of that. It's just the same shit. It's the same, like, I always feel good because the biases that I have are always being like confirmed somewhere. And I can find that source somewhere online to tell me that, you know, the vaccines are fake, or that, you know, Kamala Harris isn't a real black woman,
and
or
I can reject everything else.
You know, the transphobia I have towards Zaire Wade is the right way to feel, and I can just find people that just always make me feel like that's okay, that never want me to be a higher or better self. So I feel you. He did call back with another message.
It's Dre again. I'm gonna keep this quick because I'm feeding the baby, and I already left the voicemail this week. I'm listening to the Dermatology episode, and bruh, the black on black sunburn slander is so real. So we went to Jamaica. The lady who we booked the resort with is telling us all the things that we're gonna need. She's like, oh yeah, you should get a tumbler, you should need this, you should get that. And then she looks at me and she says, and sunscreen, if you into that kind of thing. Bruh. I'm like, so now I gotta get burnt up out here just to prove to y'all that I'm black?
Yeah.
Love
See?
I'm out of here.
It's real.
You know, it's real. When I went to Jamaica, I had sunscreen, and I used that sunscreen. And it might sound wild, but the sun, because of the time of the year I went, it wasn't like the hottest time of the year. The sun hits, but it didn't beat you up like it do down here. But even with that, yes, sunscreen matters because you will bake, and you will bake hard.
We got 2 more voicemails from one person. I think left 2 voicemails and got cut off at the 3-minute mark, which is the limit apparently, and then called back.
Hey there, Rod and Karen. This is Lily from Brooklyn. Hope you guys are doing well. I finally had a chance this week to listen to each show this week. So this voicemail may be a little bit scattered, but I want to try to stick to what I heard this week. So first off, shout out to Karen for bringing up the sanitary napkin tampon machine. You know, I'm of the belief that those machines should not cost people money because we are in a period poverty crisis. There are quite a few people that aren't able to have those products.
Right. It's an expense.
New York, all of those products are supposed to be available and free to students in New York City public schools, but that doesn't always happen. But we need to extend it. And, you know, even if, like Karen mentioned it, people being able to use credit cards or be able to pay virtually, but the fact of the matter is most of the people in the United States are women or people who menstruate, and people need free access to those things. So thanks to Karen for bringing that out. And then one more thing, I'm forgetting a whole bunch of stuff, but I wanted to talk about the, someone wrote in about, can you make the guess the race harder? And I want you to consider this. Just consider it. I don't think that I think the clues are good. What I would suggest is that maybe for the bonus round, you don't tell people the name. Because I think that's how a lot of people are able to guess the race, is based off of the name. Not always, but a lot of times. So I know, Rod, you're going to probably be like, no, I'm not changing it. But I'm going to ask you to consider maybe, at least for the bonus round, you just tell the story and you don't say the name. And Karen and everybody else is just going to have to guess based off of the actions. Okay, so that's my spiel. I may call back, but I really enjoyed being able to listen to you guys fully this week. And hopefully we'll be able to do it moving on. I don't know. I always have to take like breaks from media to keep my sanity, but just wanted to shout you two out for those things. So, okay. Happy Friday. Can't wait to hear you guys start talking about the real.
She called back, but
that's hilarious. First of all, if you don't mind me going first.
Yeah.
First of all, I do agree with you about the expenses. A lot of people who don't buy sanitary shit don't realize that depending on what kind you use, what style you use, and all that shit, you could spend hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars a year just in sanitation shit. From drawers to cups to Tampax and tampons. They fly, they got wings, they got all types of shit on. That shit becomes very, very expensive. And most men do not have that expense, so they don't give a fuck about this added on unnecessary expense, quote unquote, that you have to deal with every month. Bitch, it don't stop. It's like clockwork. It's gonna show up. It's like something you just can't get rid of it, you know. And not to get off topic, but some dudes like, ain't you used to it? Bitch, let me punch you in the balls every day. For 7 days, 3 to 5, 7 days straight every month. And let me see if you be like, get used to it. No, bitch. You know, and so for me, it's one of those things where it gets expensive. So I think it should be free. And also, it's hilarious that you wrote that article. I mean, not you wrote the article, but you wrote in about the Guess the Race. The thing is about Guess the Race, Roger is just literally reading the articles that are given to him. And that's it. Like, it's that simple, y'all. It's nothing more complex than that.
They just don't understand my art and what I'm doing here. It's like if they said, how come Wheel of Fortune can't have some of the letters actually be the wrong letters? You know what I'm saying? Where like it say you say, can I have an S, and then they give you a K. Like, it's like, no, the game, the accessibility of the game is the point. Everyone can play.
Right.
And you're just having fun. And there's no trick. Because
trick,
once
y'all.
you add the tricks, once you add the like, I'm going to make this a little harder on this one than the last one, you starting to hedge. Like, now it's about reading me.
Yes.
It's no longer about the article or the game. Now, that could be fun, I guess, but I just prefer it to be like everyone's got the same equal playing field, and Karen and everyone is just trying to guess. And honestly, because race, God damn it, I have to cannot believe. Okay, guys. So race is made up. Okay? Race is just a concept. It's not real, right? Now we have to live with the ideas and the impulses and the consequences that come with the prejudicial way we view race, okay? I can't believe I have to fucking say this about this goddamn game. It's supposed to be fun. I don't want to give a fucking...
That's hilarious.
I don't want to give like a goddamn college lecture on the shit. But race is all made up. And everything that extends from it as well. Meaning, whatever stereotypical actions we would derive the idea of attaching race to is also completely prejudicial and made up, as well as even names. Meaning there are going to be times when y'all hear a name, and it has happened. We've done 3,000 episodes. We've had times when y'all heard a name and you went, I don't know no white Laverniuses. And then you guess, and everybody's fucking wrong.
Yes,
because race is crazy.
You found that one white Lavernius out there in the world.
The point of the game is to really deconstruct racism and be like, this shit is nonsensical, and yet it drives us apart.
Yes.
That's it. It actually has nothing to do. We honestly could play Guess the Race. It don't even got to be crimes.
It ain't gotta be crimes.
There's been episodes where I used a Guess the Race, and it's just fucking like, so-and-so bought a house. And it's like, well, no one ever writes glowing things about black people buying houses. It must be white people.
Right?
You know, sometimes it's a bear.
Yes, we guessed the race of the bear.
Yeah, so I will, and I don't always have the names. Some articles you just don't have the names, but even not having the names is a clue. If I find an article that don't have the name, that leads you down different roads of like, when do they not name people that do crimes?
Yeah, and sometimes you can still be wrong.
Yeah, but the point is, it's all bullshit. So no. The game remains unchanged.
And as me as a guesser, and as the audience is like a guesser, that's part of the fun, because it basically plays on, like Rod said, your own biases, your own personal experiences. Because the
layups set you up. That's what they don't see. They don't get that the layups are the ones that set you up to be wrong.
Yes.
These people with meth were wearing Trump flags and doing. It's like, well, we know that's white. Right? But that's also funny that we all know that's white. But it's the ones where, like, you know, you think you got a layup, and then it's like, actually, race is fucked up in America. That was a black man with that Trump car. Y'all, you got caught up. You know, you didn't ask how the spelling of the name was.
Right. And sometimes that be the clue. And to me, I mean, I'm not trying to funny, y'all. That's what makes it fun. Like, for me personally, that's what makes it fun, going off of my own bias.
This is how y'all fucked up Monopoly and why everybody hate playing Monopoly. Because y'all start wanting to play by just, what if we made it so you could take the money out the bank, and then, no. Just fuck, the rules are already there. Stop fucking with it. Then 2 weeks now, then we're gonna get a bunch of emails later like, I don't like how Rod gets to the bonus rounds and then he won't say the name. Like, get out of here. Anyway, sorry,
that's
Lily. Sorry,
hilarious.
Lily. She left another voicemail.
Okay, it's Lily again. I got cut off. So yeah, I was just saying I can't wait for next week to hear you guys talk about you know, the Real Housewives ish that was going on between those two idiots yesterday. So I mean, it's not anything amusing for about 5 minutes, but yeah. Real quick though, I did want to talk about the NPR and PBS, you know, losing their funding. So I would say 10 toes down PBS for sure, fight back, all that stuff. Definitely on PBS's side. NPR, I have to say, especially when you listen to their national news shows like the morning show they have and the evening show they have, what I notice about them is whenever, like at least nationally, whenever there are Republicans in charge, they really treat them with kid gloves, you know, and they really give a lot of like benefit of the doubt and, you know, oh, it is said that, or oh, they claim, and but like a lot of cover room, right? And then I find that when it's Democrats in power, they are very aggressive. They're just like, you know, asking the questions that you wish that they would ask Republicans. So, for example, just the other day on the morning show, there was some Democratic representative on, and he was talking about this big, beautiful bill or whatever. And, you know, talking about raising the debt ceiling. And then the moderator was like, yeah, but Democrats have run up the debt ceiling too. They've done that. And it's like, well, we are talking about what's going on now. So they do a lot of, I can't think of the word, sorry, but they do a lot of whataboutisms. I find that they do that a lot. And they're just more, they press Democrats way more than they press Republicans. So, they bend to the knee, or they bend the knee a little bit. Not as big as some of the other mainstream and legacy medias, but they do it a little bit. And for all of their posturing and, trying not to poke the bear, the bear still did bear stuff. So, All right. Thanks again for all that you guys do. Love listening to your show, and peace out.
Well, thank you for calling in, Lily. And the thing I'll say about them that I think I find a little bit different than so I have a phrase, performative objectivity. That's what I call that. When you do we have to be tough on Democrats and Republicans. And so if I'm going to question, will this big bill really work the way that Trump says, or will his tariffs work that way? I'm being tough on Trump. And when I ask, is Biden really suited to sit in office, I'm being tough on Democrats. I'm being fair. That's my job as a journalist. That's what they believe. Fine, whatever. The reason I would say it's different for NPR than, say, even John Oliver or Jon Stewart or even like a CNN or MSNBC, their money literally comes from the government. A lot of it. It's donors and stuff too, but without the government money, they wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
We only have a democracy when we elect Democrats. That's America, unfortunately.
Yes, sir.
When we elect Republicans, we no longer have a democracy. They do not believe in democracy. They do everything they can to stifle democracy. They don't want people to vote. They don't want people to be able to voice their rights. They don't want a representative democracy. They don't want they don't even want to govern for the people who lose. So if they win with a minority of the vote in the country, they still rule as if they got a majority of the vote, as if 99% of the country agrees with whatever shit. They don't go, well, yeah, we won, but that doesn't mean that women shouldn't have the right to healthcare if they decide to get an abortion. No, they go, we won, that means women don't have rights. Fuck them. We won. So I say all that to say, of course, an NPR in the Republican administration is going to be tiptoeing because of what's happening right now. And it's not something that always happens under Republicans. These Republicans have gotten worse.
Yes.
This massive defunding is something they've been flirting with and wanting to do
for a long time.
But these Republicans seem like they're going to do it, or at least attempt to do it until a court makes them not do it.
Right.
So I think that's what you're hearing is fear. And when we don't have a free media, which is one of the tent poles of democracies, democracy dies. And this is what it looks like.
Right.
Is you let Republicans, not you, but
the masses, yes.
We let Republicans be in charge, and then we're like, oh shit, the media is afraid. Yeah. And you know what you're hearing when it's Biden or Obama? They're just not afraid.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily make them good people or virtuous. It just means that they should be able to ask those same questions of Republicans. They just know that a Democrat won't retaliate. They know that Obama won't go back to his office and go, I didn't like that they questioned me on this thing, and therefore I will no longer let NPR get government funding. Right. But Donald Trump absolutely will do that.
Agreed.
And they're not attack dogs, meaning they're not supposed to go into this thing with an agenda of let's take down Trump. They're supposed to go into it with an agenda of let's get to the truth. And the last thing I'll say is this: most people who consume media don't always understand the goals of the media. Meaning, there are people who get offended by questions that journalists are asking that are actually trying to put the subject in a better light. So sometimes you ask a question that people go, that was a tough question, they shouldn't have asked that. But if the answer allows Kamala Harris to just dunk on that question, then I'm glad the question got asked. and we need to know if that person can do it. So sometimes people think things are attacks that aren't. I'm not saying that's everything that happens at NPR, but that's the landscape we're in. So I can see them being like, yeah, I questioned Barack Obama for this thing, but then he gave a stupendous answer that we all shared on social media and told everybody every day. So like, was he really harmed, or was I just doing a good job?
Agreed. And so for me, and I agree, that's why I said NPR is a little different than the other ones. And also when it comes to it with the other ones, when the Democrats were in office, that was the time to be on everybody's ass, because you're in a place where you quote unquote don't have no fear. This is why I hold a lot of media to a different standard underneath Biden. I was like, oh, if y'all gonna be on Biden's ass, be fair. Agreed. Be on Trump's ass too. Just don't be on one side's ass consistently. And I got to hear months and months and months and months and months of fucking articles about the same goddamn thing, and Trump is out here doing 10 times as worse, and it's motherfucking crickets, for me, type of thing.
Yeah,
and so, right. I understand now they're in fear, but bitch, when you were free, you should have stood up.
Agreed. Yeah, like I said, I get it, is my point. When you're free, you question who's in power because you're free. But when the other people in power, you actually aren't free anymore, and you know it, because you start being a little less assertive, a little less accusatory. And of course, they exist in America, and a lot of their listener base, or a lot of Americans, let's not say listener base, but a lot of Americans are accepting of those propaganda lies I told y'all earlier. So they make it so that things that are not supposed to be a third rail become a third rail under a Republican administration. Right. Because Republicans will play victim to that shit and be like, oh, how can you accuse Donald Trump of racism? It's like, well, I was just naming racist shit he did.
Right. I'm stating facts.
But his feelings and the feelings of his supporters are more important than your facts.
Agreed.
So I don't have to make a living in that landscape off of listener supported this and then government funded that. Right. They do have to do that math. So all I'm saying is, if you want to know why they, like, I know you're going PBS is fine, they're not. I'm just saying, to me, it's more about the circumstances than the actual like integrity of the organization. What it looks like under Democrats is actually what it should look like all the time. It just never will.
I agree.
As long as we let Republicans be these kind of people, they will always be afraid of them.
And also, over the years, Republicans weren't always like this. When you tell people that like you're fucking lying. No. Yeah. There was a time where they were quote-unquote reasonable Republicans. Yes, they were Republicans, and no, I never agreed with them. Right. But there was a time where Republicans actually wanted to fucking govern. Agreed. Now they don't want to govern. They want to talk about bullshit that has nothing to do with serving the constituencies that put them in office.
Well, serving the ones that they govern over, because not even the ones that put them in office, right? Because a lot of us don't vote for them, but they rule as if we don't exist. They're just like, fuck them people. Let's make their life harder, And a
lot of times the people that put them in office now, they do shit that them people mad about. So now everybody mad.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they rule as if neither part of that matters.
Right. So that's why I say the constituents. These people put you in office, and now they can't go to their small town hall meeting and say, "Bitch, you lied. You want to cancel everything." So these are the people. Not me.
You're right.
But these are the people that put you in office, and you go, "Well, fuck them niggas and fuck you too."
Maybe Rod needs some change his mind music.
Psycho.
Music. We might need that. 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 We might need that.
Rod changes mind. Rod changes mind. You might need to make a note every single time that my mind is changing. Rod changes mind. Rod changes mind. We might 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 Rod changes mind. All right. I did change my mind. Let's go to the emails, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Our girl Sid writes in, episode 3106, the motherfucking South got something to say. Say that shit again, Karen. When it all falls and we rebuild again, and I pray this podcast is dusted off, embedded in the history of Black theory. The concept of personalizing survival modalities is a huge misstep that I've made personally, and I see a lot of my peers making. It sometimes feels like we got super saturated with knowledge of what Black people have endured, but didn't connect with the humanness of it all.
Right.
Prime example, never seeing our ancestors portrayed as fully realized humans like we see now on shows like Lovecraft Country, ATL, and Sinners, or books like Anything Toni Morrison or Sky Full of Elephants. I had a conversation with a first-gen immigrant from Haiti who compared her parents' disdain for Black Americans to my very Northeastern parents' interpretation of Black people in the South. A wildly accurate comparison. I'm going to have to send them this episode. Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the things that's so important about Black art as we get more and more freedom and get more inclusion and diversity and stuff. It does matter because there's a lot of stuff Black people think they don't like that they just don't like because Black people weren't doing it yet. So you don't think you like depictions of slavery on TV. No, you just haven't really had you didn't see Misha Green do it. And then you see Misha Green do it and you're like, no, this is fucking awesome. And I think that's the things that are lacking. And yeah, it doesn't help that we still live in a racist society that's convinced itself it's not racist. And then they're teaching us this old shit to be like, this back when people was racist, but not like us now. We're not like that at all. And it makes you feel like, man, these Black people back then, they were getting it tough and they were marching, but we don't need to march anymore. They got to the finish line. They got to that promised land that MLK never made it to with them. So we're the fruit of that promised land. We are we're on the other side of the fight. There's no fight. There's no race. It's all done. And it's all to convince us that like it separates us from those people's humanity because we don't see the connection to our own and how our struggle is related, because they're not teaching it as a continued struggle. They're teaching it as like mission accomplished, civil rights movement anyway, no racism to be talking about here today in class, and anything that's happening in the normal current politics, there's no echoes for you to be noticing and any of that shit. So I think a lot of that is very related. I like how you put that together. Karen, we gotta take more time to talk about how brilliant you are and how important your analysis of how the Southern Black experience through time plays into politics and culture. I work for a literary magazine that centers the South as a place for Black women's healing and restoration through storytelling. It's called Sistories. Oh, that's a dope name. Sistories, like histories. I got to design a workshop or interview or something around your commentary on the South. You are so dynamic. I know we give you flowers, but you deserve so many more. Accolades aside, you the Beyonce of this Black podcast-ish. I said what I said.
That's hilarious.
P.S. Rod, very glad you found grits and eggs. Even though Karen found them first, she mentioned them on an episode a while back. Oh, hold on now. Did Karen find them first, or did Karen mention them on the show first? That's the real question. Because I'm not saying she didn't find them first. I just want to know, because I be on the internet. Karen don't be on there. She be on there scrolling, looking at stuff y'all don't be looking like. She be looking at fun stuff. I be out there being like,
do.
Is this nigga gonna keep talking about these people on this podcast?
And I'm like, ooh, look at this kitty. That literally be me.
So I mean, maybe she did find them first. I don't, it's fine, but I'm just saying, cause the other reason I bring that up is I think I've been seeing that grits and eggs dude, cause he is great at marketing. Deontay Kyle, he really hit the ground. So the cynical side of me, the person that makes content, that part, not cynical, like I don't believe Deontay Kyle, but I'm saying like people that don't really live in this space and make a living in this space, I don't even know if they recognize how good he is at this media shit. I know he was a TikToker first, and you can feel it. He is polished, he is good, he is clean, but the presentation is also amazing. 2-camera shoot, he has a producer, they switch back, zoom in and out as he's talking. It's a little like Keith Lee in that zoom in thing and how it makes it better presentation. So it is very engrossing and brings you in, picks great topics and all that stuff. So when I saw the first few videos of him last year, I was just the ones that I saw, I was like, oh man, this dude's real. Like, he's gonna hit the ground running. Like, he's real slick. But also, as a cishet black man myself, is a little bit of a like, I hope that brother is on the up and up and sticks to the things that I'm like, the stuff I'm seeing. I always feel like he making sense, but my bar of like, you gonna have to keep at this for a while. You gonna have to get pushback. You gonna have to react to the pushback before I can start being like, yo, did you see what he was saying? He was speaking, because I think the bar is so low that we'll often like hop on to somebody and then like milkshake duck. 2 weeks later they saying like, and you know the other problem is these females, and you like, God damn it, son of a bitch, you seem to have a good point, and now look at us, now I look like a fucking fool. But nah, he's been at it for months now, and I don't think that's gonna happen, hopefully. And he's really handled the pushback on his I was about to say black men are the white people, but I didn't even I was like, that's not what he said. But he's handled the pushback on that concept of black male responsibility to the intra-community, like intra-community responsibility. He's really handled it well without like completely crashing out. He's made funny jokes. It doesn't, I mean, we'll see if it becomes like a lot of his content, because it can really, you can get stuck there, because then these motherfuckers are relentless and they never shut the fuck up.
And they won't let you move on.
Even
so
when you want, right.
Yeah, so it has to be the thing. I was just saying, we've learned that doing this show long enough. Sometimes you got to be like, we're not even going to talk about that anymore. I
said what I said. Y'all don't misunderstand me. And I know some of y'all are assholes and some of y'all will get it, but whatever.
Right.
So anyway, my point is, I'm into people and stuff all the time. I just don't always mention on the show, because like it's been so many times where I'm like, damn, glad I ain't bring that motherfucker up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So I was upset before, a lot of times before I make suggestions, you know, depending on what the show is. A lot of times I will have listened for a good while to be like, okay, y'all can go back and listen to old episodes. Like, I kind of want to do my research a lot of the times, because there's been people that we talked about, and like later on I'm like, ooh, yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah. And we've had situations where we've had guests on the show, people we've invited, especially back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
And then you just like, they be crashing out online a few months later, and I'll be regretting that I saw so much good in this person, you know, or they just, or like things you thought were like maybe just a hang up or a joke or something, like, oh, they just be messing with us, and then you realize like, no, they very much mean that. So anyway, point being, I be vetting people on the low. So I even if I like would have heard of grits and eggs, which I did last year, I'm not bringing that shit up on the show, because if December he's crashing out and being like, and that's why we do need to be with white women, I'll be like, ooh, I'm glad I wasn't singing this nigga's praises. But Deontay Kyle seemed like a real one, and and it's been long enough, and I feel like, you know, he be spitting that real shit. I was introduced by several of my sorors who are officially doctors of women's studies as of this May. Oh, shout out to them. He be scaring me mentioning Umar, but we coalition building right now. See what you just did, that last sentence? And that's why Karen brought him up before me, because I don't be knowing. I be afraid of that shit. Okay, I don't put my credibility on the line. Right, like y'all love Karen, so Karen could be like, I love this dude, and then 6 months later be like, yeah, so he said Dr. Umar is right about everything. Y'all just gonna love her like, oh, Karen. But me, y'all gonna be like, cishet black men, there they go again, sticking together, birds of a feather.
Knows. Nope, because nobody knows. Claire.
Yeah, I be scared the internet niggas, especially when they real good at internet. I be like, please be a good person, because people get this internet power, figure out these algorithms and use it for bad all the time. Please stick to the good side, brother.
Yes, they do. As long as he ain't talking about donations. I think we'll be all right. I think we will be all right.
But everything I've seen from that Grits and Eggs podcast, I've liked.
Me same.
And I really love the way he's pushed back against these people that are trying to, you're pandering and all that shit. He's just kind of really seen through that and been like, then call me a panderer or whatever. Fuck y'all.
Yeah, because that's one thing. When something is the truth, it can stand on its own, and it really doesn't care what you think about it.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, you're this, you're that. If you're comfortable enough to say, okay, that's what I am, you've taken the power away from them.
Y'all need that more than me.
Right.
Y'all need me to be a panderer more than you need me to be real. That's what it is.
And to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Like I said, when I said that thing, straight black men or the white people, there were so many people accusing me of shit, though. I'm like, I love being black, and I love black people, and I love black men too. Like, everything y'all saying about me is just untrue in a way that can't hurt me.
Right.
Like, it can't hurt me because I'm not who you think I am. I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't do a show where I need to pander to anybody. Like, I'm just being myself. Now, you might not like me. That's fine.
Right.
There's plenty of people I've had conversations with that don't arrive to the same conclusions as me, but you never have to pretend. You can convince yourself I'm fake. Fine. You might as well just say I'm stupid. I'd rather you just think I'm fucking stupid, because honestly, I'm not fake. I really do believe
you're not.
this.
Right.
You just disagree, and we just gonna have to leave it at that. Because you still can't whoop my ass. Crystal says, typing from the phone, sorry for any grammar or spelling mistakes. Thank you for having the dermatologist on your show. It was so informative. My 11-year-old wants to be a dermatologist. She has stated that since she was 9 that this is her career path. She goes so far to watch medical YouTubes and loves to buy skin kits from Amazon that you can pretend to biopsy. So it was so exciting to hear from an expert in the field. Her discussion about the difference in African American skin really hit home as someone who has several dermatological conditions and biopsies that left scars. I wish more care went into this more. When my daughter tells other adults her aspirations, either I am told, oh, she'll probably change her mind, or I wanted to be an astronaut, like it's some unobtainable goal, which really makes me mad, because I don't know if they are saying this because she's black, we live in a majority Caucasian area, or what, but it does anger me. I hear how difficult and competitive the field is. I tell people for my career, also in healthcare, I knew what I wanted to do at the exact same age and made it happen, so I would never discount a child's goals. Others are sending their kids to aeronautics camps and NASA space camp every year because they want to be an engineer, but a child who says they want to be a doctor needs to be practical. Sorry for my rant, but it's very frustrating, especially when you have questions. Is it because we are black, or do you genuinely believe kids say the darndest things? I had absolutely no idea it was one of the more difficult specialties to get into until others stated this, similar to Dr. McStuffins, which has helped to shape and inspire a whole generation. It's great to see representation to not only speak the unspoken things. Our skin is different and will look different. It's various conditions than the textbooks taught them, but help to implement change. It's sad that some of this isn't just plain common sense. Thank you, Rod and Karen, again, as always. Thank you.
And as a parent, I know that has got to be very, very difficult. Because like you say, for people who have these other dreams, like you said, they could send their children, like if your child says they want, it's like, is there something that is there like a medical camp? You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of this shit, you almost have to wait until you get into the field. Like, I don't know why when it comes to like the medical thing, there isn't, that you almost got to be like a middle schooler or a high schooler, you know what I mean, to even be kind of introduced to things similar to that. Whereas sometimes I think they need to have it a little younger, where you can send them to it. It ain't got to be nothing deep, but just have various different doctors to be like, this is what I do for a living. This is to break it down to whatever level, just so your child can have a better understanding of these things. And this is also where people dismiss the thoughts of children, because you know what, those other fields, people are not trying to find out, they assume that they're money makers. So I don't mind investing in my child now, because I know eventually my child will make money later on, versus a competitive field. Why would you, invest into doing that? There's no quote unquote money in that. And like you say, because we live in this country, you go, well, are you also saying this because my child is black?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Especially that part about, are they just saying it because your child is black and they shouldn't, and like this goal is too lofty? But honestly, when people say stuff like that, a lot of times what they're letting you know is the limits of their own imagination and the fears that they have for themselves. Because at the end of the day, even if your daughter attempts this thing that she wants to do and gets down that road some point, because you are requiring 12 years of school and she's 9, so it's 12 years plus how long to get out of high school. I can definitely see what people are trying to say, which is the idea of like it's a child, and a child may change their mind, and because you were a mother who didn't change her mind and you're doing what you wanted to do, maybe they feel like, oh, I hope you're not gonna be disappointed in your daughter or hurt if your daughter doesn't make it. So it could be coming from a good place of like,
agreed,
hey, even if your daughter does change her mind, you know, kids change their minds and we still love them anyway. My thing is, I would assume that's the default, that even if you're I don't know, maybe that's because you're a black mama, they assuming different, I don't know, but or maybe just parents get so caught up in the hopes for their children, and it seems to partially reflect the job that the field you're in. So maybe they're like, well, if your daughter don't do it, it's still okay. But I would just assume that you know that, like, if your daughter doesn't do it, it'll be okay. Like, why would you? What are you gonna be like? I disown you. Get the fuck out, 11-year-old. You fuck. You mean you won't be an astronaut now? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm assuming you'll be fine. But yeah, good luck to her, and you know, that is a hell of a journey. And and the last thing, also, many of us experienced it. That's why, because I definitely went to school to be a computer programmer, and that is not what I do. Karen went to school to be a teacher. That is not what she does.
No.
But my thing is, like, we'll get there when we get there, right? Like, why would I be telling you at 9, like, you know, when you get to school, you might change them? Like, hey, the only thing I would do as a parent in that situation is let you know that you can do and be whatever you want to be, and as long as you put in the work.
And I'll support you.
I'm gonna support you. And whenever, if you ever feel like changing your mind or something is disappointing or letting me down, you can't let me down.
Right. Do it because it's what you want to do.
Yeah. Like, long as you are out here being a responsible person, doing the right things, just understand there's nothing you can do that will let me down, because I do think kids worry about that, and it's not always something parents put on them. But it's something that's good to have a parent that lets you know that that burden isn't on you,
and sometimes need to be expressed, because children kind of internalize things like that, and sometimes parents don't realize that.
And they may feel like a pressure to not tell you, like,
because they don't want to let you down.
My mom was one of these people that knew what she wanted to do at a young age, and now I'm 6 years into this shit, and I'm like, I actually don't want to do this.
Right.
And can I tell my mom that, or is she gonna be horribly disappointed that I, like, did not live up to the same ideal she set for herself? So maybe I'm trying to be as nice and kind to these people as because it seemed like you were thinking of possibilities, and I'm saying maybe there's some good intentions that aren't just like, a black dermatologist? Are you insane?
Right.
Is that a nigga on a horse? You know,
and what are they doing on a horse?
So maybe it's like that, but I hope it's not. All right,
same.
That's it for today's show. We have a guest for tomorrow's episode as well. Is a author, Rachel Laria. I hope I'm saying it correctly. We'll find out tomorrow for sure at 2 p.m. She wrote a book about black capitalism, and y'all know we talk about that, and we have a segment on the show about it. So be looking forward to talk to her. And then later on this week, on Tuesday, we have Brandon Collins on the show from Drunk Black History. So we'll be talking to you guys soon. Until next time, I love you.
I love you too.
Mwah. Bye, everyone.